Greetings, welcome back to the channel. Here today I'm going to tell you why the narcissist is the common denominator. I remember when I heard the narcissist say, many different times actually, especially early on, I was just starting to think that I was the common denominator. She had all of these failed relationships, and they all do. When you talk about one narcissist, basically you're talking about all of them because they all do the same things. Their lives virtually all play out in the same way. Setting aside for a second the narcissist that gets married and stays married for a long time, which let me just tell you for the 15,000th time, the only way that happens is if the person they're married to is either also living their own life, doing their own thing, or is just being so abused day in, day out. They're just taking it, they're a doormat, they're a punching bag, they're a shell of themselves, and they're putting up with abuse that we just wouldn't have put up with for maybe the duration of our lives. Setting that on the shelf, most narcissists are in an endless series of relationships. It never stops. It always crashes. It always burns. I was just starting to think that I was the common denominator. Well, guess what? You were. They are. As time went on with the narcissist, and drop comments if you experienced this, more and more names began to emerge. As time went on, little names get dropped here and there, mostly for the purposes of triangulation. They love to bring up exes, they love to bring up other people. They'll even bring up make believe people just to triangulate you and make you jealous. But as it went on, I started to piece it together. All the failed relationships that I didn't know about. I knew about a few, but they don't tell you everything up front because if they did, you'd run for your life. But as it went on, I started to realize she's got a Rolodex. It's like just go through a Rolodex of names that she's been with. Two or three Joshes. There's a couple Brians. There's several Johns. There's not just a Rolodex, but repeating names within that. Yes, that many people they dealt with. And again, some made up, some, most probably not. And so you start to realize, oh gosh, it's never worked with all of those people. It's not working now. This is toast. At some point, you come to terms with it. Even though you're trauma bonded and you do love the person probably, and you don't want it to end and you want to work things out, you know it's not going to. Every single relationship with the narcissist fails. And I mean every single one. As I mentioned, even if they stay married, that is still a failed marriage because it means nothing to them. Having a ring, having a ceremony, entering before God, you think that means something to a narcissist? That's a joke to them. Every one of the relationships fails. They are the reason why. If you ever meet somebody, and I know that it's not nothing is 100%, right? Nothing is a certainty across the board. But generally speaking, 95, 99% of the time, if you meet a person who has been in an endless series of relationships and it never works out, don't even get started. Don't even go down that path. Don't even try it. Do not think to yourself, as we all have, and I have before, well, it'll be different with me. It'll be different, you know. I'll show them what it's like to be with a great person. I'll be loving and empathetic, and I'll be understanding, and I'll stick to it, and they'll see that, you know, they'll see my value. It'll work this time. No, it won't. No, it won't. Unless that person has demonstrated, not said, showed you a demonstrably changed life, a spiritual makeover, a spiritual transformation, a renewing of the mind, unless they are able to demonstrate that over the course of time, it's done. But I wouldn't even start down that path. Why would we think we're going to be different? It never worked with this person, with anybody else ever throughout all of history. but suddenly it's going to work with me. No, it's not. You see, because it doesn't matter how good you are. If you've been through this, it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter your value. It doesn't matter how good looking you might be, or what the job, or the money, or the house, or the family, or the empathy, or any of it. It doesn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things because it's not about you. It's about the narcissist. They are the common denominator. When you see that somebody has been in half a dozen to a dozen or more failed relationships, it shows you something definitive. Do you really think in any of those situations, with anyone, putting the narcissist on the shelf for a minute, that any one of us, I would say that about myself. If I have been in my life, if I had been in 6, 7, 8 failed relationships, I can guarantee you I would have been to blame, at least in a lot of ways, for a lot of it. I've really been in 2 failed relationships my whole life. One was a long, extended period of time being married. One was with the narcissist. And I'm almost 40 years old. I know, believe it or not, right? I'm just kidding. Just a joke. I've been in 2. If I had been in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, then guess what? At some point you could say, that's me. Because there's no way that anyone is in a series of relationships throughout their life and the other person is to blame every single time. There's no way. I don't care if you're a horrible picker. I don't care if you just choose bad people as a tendency. If you're in enough relationships, at some point you came across someone who could really make it work, but you couldn't. So chiefly the narcissist is this way. Yes, they rarely meet somebody of terrific value that's a person of the light on the narrow path, a true, genuine, one-of-a-kind, rare gem, because there's not very many of them out there. Not very many. So they're not coming across this all the time. I did a video a long time ago. The narcissist doesn't have the options you think they do. They have a ton of options, but the vast majority are lousy. That's the truth. Do you think that they went their whole life, though, and had all these relationships, and not one of those people was capable of getting it right? Not one of those people treated them well, treated them kindly, was there for them, really wanted to make it work, did everything they could. Do you think that nobody did that? I can guarantee, for starters, I did that. You did that, didn't you? You probably busted your butt. You probably had as close to perfect behavior as you could have. Probably treated somebody as well, just about as humanly possible. I did. I can guarantee you I did. I know a lot of you did. So there it was right there. If nothing else, in one time in their life, they met someone who was absolutely wonderful and should have made it work and did everything that he or she could do to make it work. So there's one. But I'm going to say for most of these narcissists, especially with how frequently they meet people, they at least met some people before you who were able to make the relationship work. Were probably at least pretty good to them, pretty good people. And it didn't work with them either. The narcissist will blow up every single good thing that they ever have. I have seen this, guys, time and time again. I'm telling you right now, if you still think there's something you could have done, or that anybody could have done, or that the person they're with now, or anyone in the future could do to make it work with the narcissist, you are wrong. You're wrong. I was wrong when I thought that. It's not true. The narcissist that I knew, just as an example, had me and then had another individual who I happen to know was at least a pretty good guy. At least a pretty good guy. Back to back. Maybe the best 2 people she's ever met in her whole life, and she had them back to back. What'd she do? Blew both of them sky high. Destroyed both situations. which were, again, at least one or two of the best opportunities she's ever had. Guarantee you, without a shadow of a doubt. And now, it'll never come again. She's in a worse situation than she's ever been. It won't come again. And this is the way it works for the narcissist. All of them. They get older, they lose their looks, they become less desirable in their personality, they become less charismatic, they become more bitter, they've blown through every good opportunity they've ever had. And guess what? Those chickens come home to roost at some point. They do. Some later than others. This person, by early mid-30s, it's pretty much done. Chances of finding a high-value guy like she had before, done. I won't go into more detail on why, but it's truth. It's over with. Might find people, but not high value, not good. And that's how it works for most of them. You see, it doesn't matter what anyone does. It doesn't matter what you did. They are the common denominator. So when she or any of the other narcissists say things like, I was just thinking I was the common denominator. I was the common denominator. They are. They are. But what do they actually do instead? Does the narcissist go, because they understand this, that nothing ever works, and at some point they're the common denominator, do they go and improve? Do they go and get their life right? Do they go and humble themselves before the Lord? Do they ask to be renewed, to be changed? Do they cry out for something to happen in their lives? Do they want to get it right for the next person? Do they want to change who they are? No, they don't. They know they're the common denominator. They'll never fully accept that they're the common denominator in here, and they'll never do a thing to change it. Because guys, you know what that behavior signifies? A repetitive cycle, an endless loop where you know it's you, but you won't do anything to fix it, yet you keep on the pattern. Gotta have somebody, new relationship, new relationship, new relationship. That is insanity, but that at its core shows a deep spiritual corruption. You have to be an extremely spiritually corrupt person to be on that repetitious, destructive, self-sabotaging cycle. And they are. These people are heinously wicked and cruel. It's no wonder why it didn't work with you or anyone before you or anybody after you, and it never will. And the vast majority of these people, north of 95%, maybe as many as 99 point something, are or will become reprobates, meaning fully morally depraved, incapable of change, given over to their lusts, their desires, their sinfulness, because they've pushed God away so many times and done so many wicked things that they have closed themselves off to the grace of God. And at some point, yes, at some point God says, just as he did with the Israelites in the Old Testament, the whole generation died out in the wilderness. Just as he did really with the pre-flood world and numerous other times. He says, you know what? You've gone too far. My grace has run out. You're gone. I don't take any pride in that. There's no pleasure in that. I wish it weren't that way. I still pray for certain people I know who are very narcissistic. Not thee, because I know she's gone. Anyone I think has a chance, I still pray for them. I do. I'd still be right here to help some of these people that I'm talking about if they ever wanted to change their lives. I would. And that goes for people in extended family, and that goes for people who are acquaintances. That goes for anybody that I think still possibly might have a chance and might possibly want to change their lives. I don't want it to be this way, but it is. Most of them will never give God a genuine shot. Most of them are so seared in here that they can't. And they've gotten there by their own decisions, their own poor decisions, including blowing up every relationship, including being the common denominator for every single relationship. They will deflect all blame. They will take no responsibility. And you might hear things like this. Brian, we're not talking about me. We're talking about you. We're talking about you. Constant deflection of blame. It's all they do. They never want to talk about their issues. They only want to talk about yours all the time. They project their shortcomings on everybody else. They might tell you there's darkness in you. They might tell you, you need therapy. I'm not trying to be cruel. I really think it would help you. They might say, I just needed more love. I just needed more support. You didn't give me enough love and support. It was really your fault. They might tell you, we brought out the worst in each other. No, we didn't. You brought out the worst in me and created the worst in me because you're so wicked. I, if anything, elevated you for the time period that it happened. Same way with all of you. They climb up and they jump on your shoulders and get a piggyback ride for a while, and they rise to your level for a little while you sink down farther towards theirs. That's how it works. That's the energy transfer. They might say things, at the end of it, I don't know how you're doing so well with this breakup. How are you doing so well? When in reality, you weren't. You were a train wreck coming off of a trauma bond, trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together. But in reality, they were doing well with the breakup. They already moved on. They already had somebody else because they never deeply cared about you at any point. That's the facts. That's the truth. Everything they are telling you about yourself is true of them. Oh, you're the narcissist. How many times do they say that? Every one of them I've met in any kind of romantic situation, even a talking stage, they accuse others in the past of being a narcissist. Straight up, they'll say it. And maybe they'll accuse you of being the narcissist. That's a telltale sign that they are the narcissist. It's projection. They'll accuse their exes of being abusive or you of being abusive. Meanwhile, they're the most highly abusive people on earth. They might accuse you of cheating. What are you doing in your phone? Who is that? When they have people all in their phone that you know nothing about. They are masters, let me say this clearly, masters at making others feel like they are the problem. If you still feel like you were the problem, or you're still questioning it, let me ease your mind. It wasn't you. It wasn't you. The narcissist is the common denominator. When you get right down to it, the only way that someone could be in an endless cycle of relationships, blowing them up all the way along, and then being with you and blowing that up, and then going into others and blowing that up, they are the problem. They are the common denominator. It's never worked with anyone ever. The narcissist never works out with anybody ever, even if they're married for years and years and years. It's miserable. It's a horror show. And most of us don't have any clue what's going on behind closed doors. Which on my last video I said, you don't really know somebody until you know them behind closed doors, for the most part. So guys, I hope that none of you are living in the bondage of thinking it was you, or that there's something you could have done better, tried harder, tried longer, given more, been better looking, been wealthier, had a bigger house, had a better job, whatever. Been in a better place. I promise you guys with all my heart, there is not a single thing you or anyone else could possibly do, offer, or bring to the narcissist that would make it work. They are the common denominator. So guys, I hope this is helpful. Drop comments below. Thanks to the new subscribers. If you haven't done that, please do so. And share this with somebody that it might help, because that's the point of all of it. So guys, I'll come at you with another one here soon. Until then, God bless.